Hey, today we're going to talk about what it takes to get a job in church communications. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is I think I've had this conversation in the last 7 days at least 5 times with different people in different groups asking about church communications. How do you start a job? Where do you start? All those things. So today I want to walk you through some things I think will help you. If this is something you think you want to do or you are kind of doing on the side, and you think, okay, how do I make this into a full-time gig? So let me kind of break down for you what I think are like 4 categories of different churches, and what they can accommodate in terms of bringing somebody on staff. So they kind of give you some framework to think through. First thing is this, is that you start off with a lot of churches as what we call church plants. So that's like category one, if you will. And think of church plants kind of like internet startups. Okay, so not a lot of resources. Everybody's wearing like 30 different hats. You may be the person who runs the parking lot. You may be the janitor. You may be the person who does the bulletin, video announcements, whatever it is. You're going to wear multiple hats. And usually nobody is paid at a church plant except for maybe a few part-time people do a few specific tasks. But the reality of it is if you're doing that, you're basically placing your faith that this is a church where God's called you to do, and eventually it will grow. And if you want to be there full-time doing church communications, your hope and your prayer is that over a 5 to 7, 10-year period, it's going to grow to the point where, yeah, you can be brought on board to do those things. But you're making an investment in good faith that that will eventually happen for you. So keep that in mind, that church plant doesn't typically rocket up. It's a long period of steady growth, in order, a stable growth for that matter, in order to become full-time at that church. So if you're a church plant, understand you're going to be there for a little while. And then the next is like, I would say, small church category. And that is, churches may be either small because one's a church plant that's growing, or maybe just the town you're in, just regionally speaking, that's just what you pull in terms of your population. And the churches like that aren't looking to hire somebody full-time. Okay, probably never will do that. More than likely what they're looking for is they're going to have volunteers. So you may be the volunteer youth leader. You may be also the media director, quote unquote, to use that language. You're doing multiple hats, and they're looking for anybody and everybody to come on board and volunteer, much like a startup. Except for the fact that small church may have been around for a while versus a startup that's, a church plant that's brand new. So more than likely, you're looking at somebody doing volunteer work. They're probably never going to hire somebody full time. Then you have what I'd say like a medium to large size church, and those are churches that have some positions that are full-time in church communications, and typically those people are what I call Swiss Army knives. So they may have a quote-unquote media director, as I said before, but their media director is actually the graphic designer, video producer. They run the soundboard on Sunday morning. It may be a full-time gig, but they are wearing multiple hats, and they're usually the people who, when I talk to, are run the thinnest, because it is what they do, and they could pull easily 50, 60 hours a week, and they're also the project manager, so they're literally got 1,000 things going on for them. So for that person, you can do that, and that's something that you may be able to pull off at church. But understand you have to have a pretty good wide skill set. And I will say the majority of them that I talk to usually start out with a good knowledge in the media side of sound, video, lighting, that kind of thing, because that's an immediate felt need. And the church communications, marketing, analytics, and Google and web and all that kind of stuff, that usually is something they think about afterwards, because right now, worship being a primary thing that the church does, you want to focus on the media side of it. So medium to large churches typically will start off with like a media director type of position, maybe a graphic designer, and eventually they kind of branch out from there. Then the next level, the final level, I say final level, the largest next category would be like a mega church. And those are churches that can afford to hire people full-time for unique specific positions. So they might have graphic designers. They may have somebody who handles just the social media. They may have a communications minister, a marketing director, whatever those positions are. Now, I will tell you, getting hired in those type of churches usually require a couple different things. One, usually requires you to go to that church. Those churches usually like to have somebody who gets and understands their culture. So I find a lot of them are very reluctant to bring somebody from the outside that doesn't understand who they are. In fact, sometimes I found that they'll hire people with a little bit less terms of skill set, but have a higher understanding of culture, because they know they can get that skill set up. They can train them in that skill set, but the culture thing is something that just takes time to get. They're also looking for somebody who not only gets the culture, but also has a good amount of experience in that area, usually secular experience. So if you want to do church communications, it's somebody who understands marketing, web, design, has got a really good understanding and background in those areas. For example, for us, the last person we just hired on our team, actually the last 2 people we just hired on our team both have secular experience in their areas, and they're very good at what they do, and they came with a good portfolio of knowledge of that. So, obviously they were the best hire for us, and one of the reasons why we hired one of them was they got the culture, they understood the culture, they're already attending here and that kind of thing. So those are the 4 different categories, if you will. So I would tell you, if you are really thinking about doing this full time and you want to do this full time, then you need to be serious about picking a church to go to and invest in that will have the opportunity to bring you on full time. That if you're a small church in a small town, that's probably not going to be a possibility. If you're a church plant, understand that you're going to be investing. It's going to take some time to get there. Okay. And if you're a medium large church, understand you may get hired, but understand that you're going to wear multiple hats and you will be stretching yourself thin as hopefully the church grows to a point to where they can bring on support around you. And if you're looking at one of those really massive large churches, well, then it's going to require a good amount of secular experience, I think, in order to be able to get your foot in the door. Now, there's 2 more things that I want to talk about before we end today. And that is this, that understand, if this is something that you want to do, understand that this job, while it may seem on the outside to be very glamorous to a certain degree, like you're getting to do what your passion is for a church, understand that when you do this and when you take on this work, that you are about to see how the sausage is made. So sometimes this job, while it may seem on the outside to be kind of like something you want to do, understand that there's a lot of dirty work that goes along with it. And a lot of times in church communications world, you're not loved for what you do because people don't realize they take what you do for granted. And nobody does that intentionally to be mean, but that's just the nature of the work itself. The second thing is this, is that as you're thinking this through, a lot of people like to create these like career path or career plans. And I think it's something we used to do back when we had more stable job structures in our economy. Okay, but as a book I just finished reading by a last name authors Pearson, I want to say the first name is either Taylor or Tyler Pearson. It's called The End of Jobs. I recommend you read it because it talks about how our jobs have shifted and the economy has shifted. But the best piece of advice, and I actually finished the book this morning, was that don't focus on career plans. Okay, and this is actually advice from Mark Andreessen, the founder of Netscape. Don't focus on career plans. Instead, focus on building your skill sets. Okay, focus on building your skill sets and then taking advantage of every opportunity possible. So if you do those 2 things, focus on your skill set, take advantage of every opportunity possible, you will see more of a career trajectory growth than somebody who just outlines this plan. Because guess what? Things are probably going to change. For me personally, I know what I'm gonna do about 6 months out. Beyond that, I'm not sure career-wise, because I know that things change so rapidly in our culture and in our world. So that's some things for you to think about, feed on, all that kind of stuff. Don't forget today, the Seth Muse podcast comes out that Katie and I did with Seth Muse about resources for you and your church. You need to check it out. Also, if you haven't had a chance, join the church Facebook group, Church Communications Facebook group. I'll put a link in the notes below the video on YouTube. We'd love to have you there. And if we don't click and accept you in on the first time, message me on Facebook and I'll make sure you get in. All right, thanks, bye.